Hey you guys, this is Thoughts with Queen T, and essentially the topic for today is the cancellation of shows. How how is it determined that some of these shows, can get canceled? There's a lot of different reasons, and of course, as a fan of shows that have been canceled, it's hard because you see other people talk about these shows and you're like, okay, obviously it was popular. Like, why? Like, I'm not the only one talking about it. But I feel like there's a few different reasons as to why, of course, shows get canceled. And I know recently, especially when it comes to, notorious Netflix for canceling shows after like a season or just like out of the blue, like, oh, no more, no more of this show. Like, not another. We're not continuing on this show, on this project. I know with HBO Max there were a lot of shows that I watched, as well as just projects in general, that they decided like, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. And I don't know. I feel like that was for a few different reasons. I don't know if that was just solely based on, you know, the show maybe just isn't doing well. Let's focus on something else. Or the show's just done. Like, let's move on. Or the merger that's going on. I feel like there were a few different things just going on at that point where it's like, well, who knows what's safe now? But one of the reasons I think, definitely shows do get canceled is budget. What is the budget for this show? And does it balance out for what we're like making I would say a profit on? Does it return our investment essentially? Are enough people watching it? And I would say even engaging in let's say merchandise or um, you know, in this franchise to make it profitable. So the example I'll give in particular, like with Netflix, is Sense8. When it came to the budget, particularly on that show, it was it was high because they tried to make the show as authentic as possible. They would shoot in locations where those characters were from. They would shoot the scenes that they needed to in Iceland. They would shoot the scenes that they needed to in Mumbai. They would shoot the scenes in Mexico City. It kind of just went all over the place. And you know travel and everything adds up. While, if you did just the green screen, that's one thing, but I think with particularly the creators of the show and everything, it's like that really wasn't their style. That's not what they wanted to do. And that was something I really appreciated about the show. I loved the authenticity of it. And also, I think it leads into another area, not just with Sense8, but with other shows, is was there enough marketing, viewership? Do people know enough about this show to have an interest? So again, I'll bring up that Sense8 example and then I'll talk about other ones. When it comes to season 2 in particular, when it first came out, enough people didn't know that it came back out. There wasn't enough marketing, there wasn't enough information out there. And if you just went on Netflix, like if you already watched it, oh, it's back. Like, time to watch it. And I think that's very similar to other shows. If you don't have enough marketing, if you don't have, enough things telling people like, hey, remember this date, mark it on your calendar, it's coming back, like, people aren't going to remember a year, like, however many months ago from when they saw it. It has, like, for some it has to be kind of, I would say, repetitive. Like, you have to let people know, like, hey, this is coming soon. Like, it's almost here. And, like, the example I'll give is with, recently with 1899. That is, I feel, another show where there's a lot to it. It's not just you really have to pay attention, but it was a really good show for, I think, a lot of different things. It had a lot of different areas that it covered. It's one that I need to rewatch and, like, I would say almost fully absorb, because yeah, some episodes I didn't pay too much attention to, so I missed out a lot on it. But still got the full grasp on what the show was. But then a few weeks later, if I remember correctly, Wednesday came out. And, Wednesday, again, was one of those more anticipated shows that, even though we didn't know really what to expect, it was one that people were definitely going to watch because it's a popular character, it's a popular franchise, like, it's something people can kind of connect themselves with. So I think it all it has to do with a few different things. It has to do with timing, it has to do with marketing, and it also has to do with how much time are you allowing these shows to really, what's the word I'm looking for? Flourish. Like, are you giving it enough time to find the audience it needs? Like, when, for example, 1899, when it first came out, normally with shows that do come out the day they come out, I watch them right away. I'm like, okay, this is a show I've been anticipating, this is one I need to watch, I gotta be on it. And with 1899, I read the description a few times. I was like, okay, let me feel it out. Like, I was watching and doing other things at the time. So I'm like, let me let me get there when I get there. And I finally got there. It just, then a little while later, you had a show that, again, people are going to, like, divert their attention to it instead of maybe something else. And depending too on how much time it takes some people to watch shows, like, some can binge watch shows like nobody's business. Others, it takes them a little while. Like, it takes a few weeks, maybe even months. And so if you don't give a show enough time to maybe find who they need, find the audience that they want, that can also be a big disadvantage. Because I think too, like, again, another show that was canceled through Netflix was Julie and the Phantoms. And that ended on a big cliffhanger. I was not the only one who was pissed. And we're just sitting there like, so we'll never get to know how this ends? Ever? Okay. And it recently just came out, like, there was going to be, like, 5 seasons. This was how it was going to end. And I'm just like, I missed out on this beautiful story because of, whatever reason. And again, did it meet a threshold? Did it meet, I would say, the viewership that it needed? And I think that's what sucks too, is, even I've done this. You find shows, I wouldn't say from years ago, but, like, let's say you find a show that came out a couple of years ago, however long ago, you get into it, and then it's like, oh, it's gone. And yeah, then it does just end. Like, you keep growing an audience depending on what you see, based on, maybe, social media, you know, definitely your videos on YouTube, all that good stuff. Like, there are songs I find, things I find that I'm like, oh, it may be from, however long ago, but I didn't know too much about it. So then I get invested. But you also have shows like with the viewership and everything else, and it makes you start to wonder, how did that get. Because what also made me think of this topic is Velma, the not so Scooby Doo show that is a Scooby Doo show, um, and I've seen the ratings. I haven't watched the show. I've seen the trailer. I've seen some clips, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is, and like I've read this description on like what they changed about the characters, like kind of what's going on. And I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. Like I don't think it is. And from what I've just heard, like a lot of people have just been talking about it. But then I've heard, like I was seeing some articles where like, did HBO potentially like renew for a season 2? And here is how I think they could have. I don't know how much they look at ratings. Given the critic ratings, the last time I saw them, it was like 50%. And of course, audience ratings, it was very low. But if enough people are talking about it, one, people become curious. People become curious, they want to see. And if they want to see, especially if you have a limited amount of time, guess what? I want to click and watch. That increases the viewership. That increases like all these statistics, all these analytics that they're looking at. And if enough people are watching, that could warrant a season 2. Like that is where it's like, oh, we're talking maybe badly about the show. However, you keep clicking on it, like you keep watching it and reviewing it, doing whatever. Do the reviews matter? I think they do, and I think they don't. I sometimes wonder how much people look at reviews, like sometimes when it comes to some of this stuff. But also, I've been trying to like get a clear, like, is this yes, no? So, but it just said potential. So I don't know yet, but I could see that because, like I said, I've seen enough people talking about it, and I've seen enough like articles on it, everything else in between, and I'm like, I wouldn't be shocked if they get out a season 2 with, if people keep clicking and watching. That's the name of the game. That's how it works. But like I said, I don't know. But those are just a few things that, as a company, just in general, that people look at. Like, particularly when it comes to entertainment, you have to see, is this reaching? Is this succeeding? But I feel like if it's not, if you feel like this may not reach the audience that you need, does it maybe then need to go back to a drawing board? Because you don't want to keep giving people false hope on things, and then it's just not successful, and it's not something, you don't want to invest your time in something and then it's just gone. I've been there, I've done that, and you don't want any more of it. You're just like, okay, I don't know anymore. I don't know what to do. So that's just kind of my thoughts on it. Feel free to leave your thoughts down below, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.